program. So with that, I would like to turn the mic over to Brenda. And Brenda, would you like to tell us a little bit about how our partnership began?
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, good. The program actually started as outreach from our church. Word of Life is the church, but the rescue was the community outreach portion, which is year round. During the summer, we had Elevate, which is the summer camp program. Now, Pastor Priscilla met how it all started is she used to work at a business hub, what they call it, a business incubator. And she met Doreen and Jane Galetto because they were using the facilities there, or rather she was working in the office. And that's how she found out about the Citizens United, through mailings and information. When she left that job, she went to Sun Bank, and Pete Galetto was on the board of directors at Sun Bank. And then she made the connection again. She remembered, working with Jane and Doreen. And she mentioned to him at that time, she said, that's something that our children from the summer program would like to get involved in because they need to be aware of the science part of it, the exploration. And that's how it actually started. Jane contacted Priscilla and set up a date for us all to get together. And that was 16 years ago, I believe. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I believe we've been going there for 6 years every year.
Yeah. So, Brenda, can you tell us a little bit about who the Elevate program serves, what the goals are of the program?
Right.
And like, what is it? Is it a summer program? Is it an annual program?
Okay, the Elevate is a summer program. It's 8 weeks every summer. It's open to, I think we went ages 8 to 14. 6 to 14. They were the ages of the campers. And it was anyone that interested in a camp. We had a lot of intercity children. We had a lot of referrals from DIFAS. We had a lot of referrals from Big Brothers, Big Sisters. Any of the children who didn't have anything to do in the summer. Some of the parents just wanted to send them there for the summer. So that's how it started. But when we came up with Elevate, it was to raise them up a notch. That's where Elevate came from, to raise them up a notch, to get them from, to be more aware of what's going on. A lot of these kids, they never even left the city. All they knew was what was in the city right around them. And Priscilla said, we need to expose them to a little bit more. And when this program was available, it was like perfect because a lot of them had never even been to a river before. They didn't know about Maurice River, so, and it's a lot more than just going to the river, but going outside of your element and seeing what else is out there. And the Citizens United had so much to offer for the children. It was just to give them an idea of what it's like, to experience a whole lot more than what they were used to. And especially being outside. That was the thing, being outside. And that was a great opportunity for them.
We thought that what we should do first is kind of go through the mechanics of the day. So what is the outdoor exploratory program that we're offering to Elevate? So how do we elevate? We begin the program with a presentation of the previous year's photos. So we start and we show off, and there's typically music and clapping, and the kids see themselves, but they also get to see what they're going to be doing throughout the day. So it's kind of like setting the expectations and giving them a little intro, a little visual summary of what to expect. And we think that also provides some comfort once they're standing at the river's edge. They see their friends and how they've done it. One of the activities that we do is a motorboat ride. So They all take turns, they get on the motorboat, and we get to take them to some of the more pristine stretches of the Maurice River where they can see the large wild rice meadows and the osprey platforms that CU manages. They get to see birds they've never seen before. They get to go to an artesian well. They learn about the different preserves and what bluffs are and what animals, sometimes our board president will do fox calls, and she makes it really entertaining for them. She'll even do bunny calls and the like. So everybody comes back with a huge smile on their face after the motorboat ride. From there, in different groups, they'll cycle through a exercise that we call paint a landscape. So we set up easels that we've made on the dock that looks out over wetland areas and a large section of the river. And the kids get to use their creativity to explore the river with this exercise. From there, I say that all of the different activities are favorites, but another favorite is the garden tour. And what's really neat about the garden tour is that the participants, the children, and when I say participants, I really want to stress that with this program, one of its strengths is that it's not just the children, it's also the parents, and it's now also grandparents that are bringing them back. So there's this continuity in it. And, the kids seeing their parents taking part also animates them to be more adventurous and more open to trying new things. So it's a really neat dynamic. So in the pollinator garden, Sue Finelli was telling me that they walked into the pollinator, a group walked into the pollinator garden one day when she was there, and they're all scared of the bees. Oh gosh, the bees, the bees, the bees. And a volunteer walked over and said, how about I tell you about the pollinators? How about I tell you about the bees? And from there ensued a story, but they get to see caterpillars. Spice bush caterpillar is at this time of the season. We find tons of those in the garden. We interpret the dragonfly life cycle as well. And we get to show them flowers that they've never really seen before. So in the garden, we also work on using binoculars and seeing birds. We tend to see a lot of goldfinches, which is New Jersey state bird, in this time in August. So this is really fun. And we're very fortunate that we have a very robust and knowledgeable team of naturalists, volunteer naturalists, that help lead each of these different stations. So before in this picture, we see Mary Watkins, who's there on her own time, and she's amazing with children and also just has an abundance of knowledge. Then we have the canoe trip. Brenda, do you recognize anybody in a canoe?
Yeah, that's me with my hand across my face. My first time in a canoe.
After how many years?
16 years.
Brenda, everybody, I think Brenda gets a round of applause. First time in a canoe after 16 years of Elevate. So yeah, Brenda, you're one of our success stories this year.
Right. And it was fascinating. Yeah. I would do it again.
We hope you will in 22. But we take the families out in the canoes. With the younger kids, we'll go right along the shoreline where it's nice and shallow. Sometimes some of the kids are a bit nervous to get in the boat. They've never seen the river before. They've never interacted with the river in this way. So sometimes we'll put them in the canoe, and the two naturals, like you can see on the bottom left-hand side of this slide, we have two naturals there, and they'll just push them back and forth along the water. But what's really neat, and Sue will talk about this later, is that many of these kids who started off like this, just sitting in a canoe being pushed back and forth, when they come back in future years, they're now going out on the river in the canoe. So it's progressive, which is really neat. And in all of our boats, we have very experienced paddlers and canoers, and also our naturalists who are interpreting. One neat story from this year was that there was Her name is Brielle, a little girl, maybe Brenda, maybe 8,
8
9,
years old. Yes,
8
she
years
is.
old.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, she had just come from the garden tour, and she walks up to one of our paddle guides, and she says, "This is my dream. I am so excited to go on this paddle." And so he takes her out on the paddle, and she says, I don't want to go back. I want to stay in the wetlands. I don't want to go back. And he says, "All right, well, you know, I can't, you know, I can't take her back right now." So he takes her a little bit further into the wetlands, and she goes, "Hey, look over there. There's a cardinal flower." And he says, "What? How do you know that's a cardinal flower?" She said, "I saw it on the garden tour." So it's kind of neat that she got to see, you know, the stewardship aspect of it, you know, the pollinator aspect, you know, pollinator garden aspect of it, but then she also got to see a naturally occurring cardinal flower. So that was fun. And they came back about 20 minutes later, which messed us up on the stations, but it was well worthwhile. It was well worthwhile.
Absolutely.
She now is also interested in working with him to learn how to paddle and take some paddle lessons. And then we have lunch break. You got to break bread together. That's how you make friendships. Our lunch break, sometimes it's a lunch break, sometimes it's a lunch break and dance party. But I think another great strength of this program is that sense of friendship and community that we've built around it. You know, our community, our volunteers, sometimes we have as many volunteers as there are participants because everybody wants to participate in this program. Everybody wants to be there. So, and our participants have started bringing their families as well, because, you know, it's just such a heartwarming day. It's just really super fun. And then the grand finale is the seining. And here you can actually see Brielle. This is Brielle. Was this her first participation, Brenda?
No, Brielle had been before, but she had been a couple of years without going. So now she's grown up. In fact, well, I said she's 8. She's actually 9. She's turned 9, yes.
Okay, yeah, so there was no way that she wasn't seining. She was going to hold that seine, and it was neat. You know, we this year we pulled out some silver sides, and this year we got a flounder, some baby flounders, and the eyes hadn't migrated to one side of the head yet. So that was neat, and they learned about you know, the eye positioning of the flounder, and we just really have a fantastic time. And I think we need to go back. Oh, I forgot picture time. You know, at the end of the day, we absolutely must have picture time. And that can get rowdy. Sometimes it's ornery faces, and other times it's you got to stick your finger out there. There are themes to every picture that we take, which is, you know, it's like team building. And we all say goodbye, and you know, when we say goodbye, we're all ready for the next year. We're all looking forward to it. So with this, I want to turn the mic over to Sue and Brenda one more time. And Sue, we had spoken a little bit about the attributes of Elevate and what continues to make it successful. And I was wondering if you wanted to embellish a bit.
Carla, you are doing a wonderful job, and Brenda, thank you so much for participating. Gee, what a great program, and I'm excited to be a part of it. And those of you who are joining our meeting, welcome to wonderful Cape May. That's where I'm going later to Cumberland County. It's a beautiful day. Elevate is a very special, wonderful, wonderful program. And I just am thinking back to the times when our campers first arrive at the property where we do our little programs. They are so excited as they get moved from their cars down the knoll onto the river, and they see all this water and the gardens that are there, and they want to know what things are. And some of the attendees are former campers, and they've learned, so they can say, oh, that's an oak tree, or yes, that's a certain kind of a bird. It's an absolutely spectacular spectacular day. We sing songs, the students paint a landscape. I don't know if any of you have ever done this with a group of children, but we set up easels on the Maurice River, along the river on the dock. We talk to the children about the safety, naturally, of being on the water, about the water and where it flows and where it came from, and high tide and all things like that. We speak about the flora and the fauna. The children get a chance to experience what's around them. It's a quiet time, some part of this, and then they get to paint a landscape. Well, it's just a very special time. They paint what they see. And I want to tell you that there was one boy, I'm not going to share his name, but what a lovely young boy. He said he really didn't do much artwork before the day that he painted this landscape. Turns out that this young man is now a photographer of natural life, the natural beauty, nature photographer. It's amazing to see what has happened with these children, the positive things. And they're becoming stewards of their environment. So I think Carla just shared beautifully with you what CU does and what a day is like, but it's pretty special. And that experience with the bee was amazing. It was just incredible that our environmentalists can take it from a, oh my gosh, I'm scared phase of development to, that's interesting. And I do see that this is what pollinators do. So that's just a quick thumbnail. And I'd like to turn this over to Brenda, who is an amazing person.
Oh, thank you so much.
Brenda?
Well, you know, while we're looking at the picture, you see me, that's me with the pink hat, my daughter, who's in the gray and black, and her children, 3 generations there, because that's how much we enjoy going. Every year we look forward to it. My daughter started as one of the camp counselors, 17, when we started, I said 20 years ago is when we started the rescue program with Elevate. She was one of the camp counselors. Now she's a mother and her kids are coming too. And back to the story about how it affects these children. One of the other campers had never been on Maurice River before. And he was so intrigued when it came with the netting and the seining and pulling in the fish. He is now studying marine biology because that's how much it meant to him. He had no idea that this much was available to him, and they were amazed and astonished. And you see how it affects their lives in the future.
Wow.
Yes, that's just one story, but it's just amazing how much information, and how much exposure these kids get, just by seeing and it's right around us. They don't have to go far to get to the Maurice River, but that's just the beginning of what else is out there on this beautiful earth. There's a lot going on, and they just experience so much from being with the Citizens United, and they look forward to it every year.
So Lisa posed the question, what are some of the challenges that Elevate faces? And Brenda, Sue, and I were really scratching our heads trying to figure out what our challenges were. And then a light bulb went off. And I think, one of the greatest challenges is probably safety. So a few years back, probably about 6 years or so back, we decided that it was important that we had some emergency services on site with us. So we called up Inspira, which are first responders, EMTs, and we also called up the fire department. So the fire department comes down and they have a boat on the water there to rescue should that be necessary. And Inspira is there, but also we always bring in some of our nurses who are members, and they're our boo-boo patrol. And I have to say, I've had a Band-Aid or two put on by the Boo Boo Patrol, and maybe more than any of the kids, to tell you the truth. So I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but I am. And so what's really neat about it is that, you know, the goals of the program speak to other partners as well. And we've been able to leverage their involvement because they also believe in what we're all trying to accomplish together. So we're very grateful for their donation of their services to, you know, to the safety of the day, to ensuring the safety of the day. And then with this, I want to turn it back over with Brenda and Sue again. We have spoken a little bit about what the experiences are like for the children and the adults. But I did find some pictures, and I thought maybe the two of you could elaborate on these stories. Sue, do you remember Danae from the picture in the orange?
I do.
Can you tell the story of Danae?
Oh, I absolutely do. What a dear, sweet little girl. She was not going to go in the canoe. She really did not want to go in the canoe. So I encouraged her, quietly encouraged her to get into the canoe. And then I simulated what it was going to possibly be like in the river. And we just kind of rocked the canoe back and forth a little bit. Of course, she's in the canoe by herself. None of the children went in the canoe alone. They all had guides and people who were paddling, but she was absolutely adorable, overcame her fear, and had a wonderful time, and ended up not wanting to get out of the river or get out of her canoe. So, and I explained to her that this was my very own canoe that she was getting a chance to go in. So she felt pretty special, I'm sure. And I'd love to know where this little girl is now or what she's doing. Oh, she was delightful.
Another part of the story with Danae is as well was that she was afraid of the water and never wanted to take swimming lessons, from what I understood. And the next year she came back to Elevate, you know, to our Outdoor Discovery Day part of Elevate. And she said, I am ready to go in the canoe on the water this time. I have taken swim lessons and I am no longer afraid of the water. Can I go in the canoe first?
Isn't that great?
Yeah, it was fantastic. It was fantastic.
Well, and I can tell you, Danae is now 13 years old and she's living in Delaware.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Yes, she is.
She needs to come back.
Yes. I'll have to let her parents know for sure. Yes, she definitely needs to.
Encourage her to come back and become a counselor.
I'll do that. Yes.
That would be wonderful.
Yes.
In fact, Brenda, did you want to elaborate on Deshaun's story?
Well, yes. And Deshaun is, in fact, you see him out there on the dock and he's doing a picture. Before the day that he came, when Deshaun first started, he was going through some issues. In fact, he was going to quit school. He came to Priscilla, convinced him, you just come on, it's just to be a helper. So he came. He drew a picture, he painted the picture, and it was, he actually, I think it must have been a contest or something was going on, because he won his drawing, his painting.
His drawing from the river?
Yes. And I can't remember, I have to find out more, but what happened, he decided to go to art school, and Citizens United actually gave him a stipend, a little scholarship to help him get started. And he went to art school and he's now a graphic designer. He's now
Citizens United has a scholarship program for artists, for young budding artists who are going to continue their studies at university, and it helps them purchase materials. It's called the Connie Jost Scholarship, and he was a recipient of that.
He was a recipient. Yes, and it got him started because right now to this day he is a graphic designer, and he's only 22, 23. He's young.
And this year
Yes.
he returned. This year he returned to Elevate as an adult.
Yes.
And he was speaking with one of our employees, David, and it seems that he's very interested in working as a volunteer and leading a photography outing with some of our nature photography enthusiasts. So we're super excited to explore that with him.
Brenda,
Yes.
I would just like to share with you quickly that about a year ago, I received a phone call from Deshawn. And
Okay.
I was so happy. I cried. They were happy tears. And he
Yes.
called just to say what a wonderful time he had, what a great experience it was. And he said, I think CU changed my life. I think that day
Yeah, I believe
changed
it.
my life.
Yes.
Is that
Yes.
amazing?
Yes,
You
it
just
is.
don't know. You just don't know what today is going to bring or tomorrow
That's
or what
true.
influence you have.
That
But
is the truth. Yes.
get a call
Yeah.
from him was pretty special.
And the
So,
thing is, even every time I go, I learn something. I learn something each time I go. And this has
So
been
do we.
16 years, and it's amazing, so that's why we look forward to it, because there's so much to, so much to learn. There's so much out there in this beautiful world, and Citizens United just makes it a lot easier for us, for sure.
Connecting with community and nature, huh? Pretty special.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Sue and Brenda, with that, I would like to thank both of you for your dedication to getting youngsters out and into the great outdoors and to introducing them to the Morris. And thank you for volunteering your time today to share your experiences and to share those experiences that you've also witnessed. And with that, Lisa, if you'd like, the three of us could take questions, or if you'd like to move on,
Yeah,
just
I
let us
think
know how to proceed.
Yeah, I think we definitely have time for a few questions. So we already have a hand raised. We have Allison. So I think we have a small enough group, first of all, that we can definitely take some verbal questions if folks want to just raise a hand if you're interested in speaking verbally, but we can also do questions in the chat. So whatever folks on the call here feel comfortable with. But Allison, go ahead. You had your hand raised. So go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you. Yeah, this is a wonderful presentation. And we have a summer program that's much smaller than that, working with the Boys and Girls Clubs. So I was really curious how it is organized in terms of, do you do all those steps 1 through 6 in one day, or do they come every day and you spread it out? How many hours a day are they with you?
So
and all those sort of little logisticy things. And we'd love to we might connect with you separately later, because I think we could learn a lot from what you're doing, because we're reevaluating our program now.
Absolutely. So this program, Elevate, is a one-day program. So those 5 or 6 steps that you saw, we do that between about 10 a.m. to about 3 p.m. Each of the stations is about half an hour with about half an hour, maybe 25 minutes with a 5-minute, time to cycle in between. And yeah, we're using this as a model to create new programs as well, because we find this pattern works very well. The cycling of the stations and then also, having a diversity of activities. Some people might feel more adventurous and will be more drawn to the motorboat ride and the canoe, whereas that might not be for everyone. And you wouldn't want to have, a child not be able to do anything one day. So if you have canoeing all day long, one child's afraid of it, what else do they do during that day? So having other experiences like, paint a landscape where they can use art to interact with the landscape or, with the resource that they're looking at, can be is another opportunity for people with different skill sets, and maybe somebody who a lot of people like to do with their hands. So maybe going into a wildlife garden would be interesting to them, and to see what you can build. So so I think that's kind of why that works so well, because there's a diversity. Hiking might not be for everyone. So if you go on a 4 or 5 hour hike, I mean, it's hard for me to say that for myself, but thinking, in other people's shoes, having it be more cyclical, I think is good, and having a diversity of activities.
So you said it was over 8 weeks. Do you do this once a week?
No, so Elevate belongs to the church, right? It's under the church's umbrella. And from my understanding, Brenda, and maybe this is actually more of a question for Brenda, but the church offers many different activities in order to
Right.
expose their audience to, different opportunities for them and things that maybe they've never done before, because they might be from a inner city neighborhood, or they might be, they might not have the resources to do it, or, it's also a generational thing right now where people tend to be more at home than outdoors, right? So I think what the program is doing is trying to offer a slew of activities, a grand variety of them, so that
Correct, yeah.
kids get exposed to different opportunities.
Because we did bowling, we did a minor league baseball game, we went to the aquarium. We would do a trip a week. So it's an 8-week program, but one day out of every week we would do something. The trip to Citizens United is one of the trips. That was one of the excursions, yes.
It's been really, it's really a great partnership. As environmental organizations, we should be doing outreach. We should be creating lasting relationships. But sometimes having a partner who their one and true mission is to build relationships and, to work with an audience for 365 days out of the year, to be there for their needs, and to be counselors. We can overlay those missions. And I'm not saying anything new here, but once we get that overlay and mission, we can do so much more together. So I think, working with Word of Life, so many of the barriers that would exist for the program, other programs of ours, it's hard to get waivers. It's hard to get parents to participate. It's hard to get, the schedules to work. And so, Word of Life, having this partnership together, so many of those hurdles just dissipated, and we could focus on building this relate. And you can't say that we haven't built a relationship. We've been doing this for nearly 20 years now. I mean, we know their grandparents, we know their parents, we know their children. I mean, so I'll just keep talking in circles. So I'll stop now.
Yeah, well, maybe we have time for one more question. So if anyone wants to ask a verbal question, just feel free to raise your hand, or we can take questions in the chat as well. All right, well, hearing none, just really want to thank you, Carla, Brenda, Sue, for your time. This was a great introduction to your program. And, I certainly learned a lot about how the value of community and the cultivating of community is really a cornerstone of connecting to nature, and that your program has really capitalized on that and really use that to its fullest, and the outcomes are outstanding. So it was really awesome to hear about your great program and the effects that's having on individuals and the community. So thank you so much for your time in coming and presenting to the coalition today. We greatly appreciate.
Thank you.
Certainly
Thank
welcome.
you, Sue and Brenda,
Certainly.
so much, Sue and Brenda.
You are
Thank
welcome. Absolutely. Oh, thanks.
Wow. Thanks.
All right, well, with that, we will go ahead and launch into the rest of our agenda. So that gives you a little bit of a sneak peek as to sort of what our inclusivity series looks like. We'll be hearing from a variety of other organizations as